Um, there was the man, Joe, and his wife, Marty, and their daughter, Elaine, was my age, and I was in 7th grade. And then they had one named Joe, and then they had one named Jake. And Jake fell somewhere within my two brothers, my little two brothers, somewhere in there. I don't know where he fell, but the three of them were partners in crime for the whole time. And my most vivid memory of meeting those neighbors was when Elaine came over to meet me, but actually she wanted to meet the boys, so she's very into boys at that age. I had no use for boys. I wasn't there yet. And so, but yeah, so she waltzed over with this perfect page boy and the legs up to her armpits and sky high and beautiful, graceful, and I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna be hard for me here. They all look like that. But that house was very different. It didn't have a bathtub or a shower. Everybody washed at the sink. It was really a whole different type of living, I remember.
So, what is your perception of the role that Dad played during those years when you were at Allison? On the community as a whole, more so than his position as superintendent. Do you have a sense of, I guess, the legacy that he might have left?
Well, my dad moved his family. We were really pretty happy in Kingsley. He was really at the epitome of happiness. Built a new school. He was completely well respected and adored, really, by the community, and we were too. As part of that, it was a golden time when we were living in Kingsley. It was a golden time. But then, when Johnny died, my little brother died. I was 13. My mother just went into a downward spiral because there was something special about him, and his loss was felt very, very deeply by my mother. She had a very special bond with him, and I think part of it was a mother with a child who needs her. He needed her so much, and he was very selfless. He would jump off her lap and sit and make one of the other kids go on her lap, and she would be like, "No, I don't want them. They're fine." Yeah, so my mom was just really struggled. She was going into this downward spiral. She was going to the cemetery every day.
So do you have a recollection of...
So the reason why my dad ended up making the decision to move his family to Addison was because he thought that change of location was something that would help my mom lift her, by necessity, because she would have a lot of things to do, she would have a new community to get to know.
Yeah.
So he just thought that moving her out of Kingsley was the right thing to do for the family, so that's what he did. So I don't think he necessarily loved Addison or, I think it was just a really hard time for all of us as a family, and my dad, he just thought that moving us was the way to help us all shake loose, or move forward. And it's really true, because for the longest time after Johnny died, you couldn't go anywhere. Everybody was so sorry. They just couldn't leave you alone. They were hugging you and patting you, and it was like that everywhere that we went. At church, into the store, everything would stop when they saw you, and they'd be like, "Oh my God." And then they'd be all over you, and it just was really, it was hard.
It was a
Even
community
kids in my class did that. So it was just, it made it hard. I think it made it hard for it, just the community, everybody, just, I don't know, it was such a terrible loss. I mean, imagine what it must have been like after Terry died. I mean, it's like a small community like that, it's like their loss, just like it's your loss, it's everybody's loss. And everybody loved him. He was so special. He was just this amazing kid. I mean, I don't know if you remember that he used to have to get white blood cell shots every month. He had to get these 3 giant shots that hurt and burned. And he would get if he did it without crying, the doctor would give him a quarter. So with the quarter, he would buy a candy bar, a nickel candy bar for all of us. And him and you and Joe and Mike and me. And he would stand outside the drugstore where we all walked to get home, and he would wait for us and give us our candy bar, and we would, you know, that was pretty. That's the kind of selfless thing that, I don't know where he came from. The rest of us were kind of like savages compared to him.
You're right about, the fact that we sort of come along for the ride. Dad has a prominent position that he's very good at in a relatively small town. More about Kingsley then. It was a much smaller community than Addison, the town that we moved to. How many kids were in your class in Kingsley?
Yeah, Addison was, it's not a big school. I think, I can't even remember my graduating class. I think there were 100 maybe,
That sounds good.
But to me it was a gigantic whole, it's amazing, 4 times as many kids. Because my class in Kingsley, I think we had like 31 kids, and there were like, 12 girls and 27 boys. However the math works out, like it's very small, but
Do you have
I
any
knew
memories-
every single one of the girls. I knew where they lived. I knew everything all about them.
Do you have any memories prior to Kingsley?
Oh yeah, we lived in Traverse City. Oh yeah, because I was going into 3rd grade when we moved. Okay, and I was really mad that we moved because if you're in 2nd grade, you can only play on this side of the playground, but when you're in 3rd grade, you get to cross the bridge and play on that side of the playground with the big kids. And I moved, and so I never got to cross the bridge. But yeah, I actually remember that house.